I dislike this Seren fight. I really do. But how can you get better if you don't reflect on it? So that's what we're doing here. Welcome to my Hard Seren duo run. So what's the plan? As usual, the plan is very simple. We burst in phase 1, we wait for our cooldowns, we change to phase 2, and then we burst off cooldown every time we can and try to survive until the boss is defeated. The problem? The mechanics. Pause. What do you care about in this boss fight? You care about your lives and you care about your gauge. Why do you care about your lives? Because when you die out, you're done. Why do you care about your gauge? Because when the gauge is full, you get stunned for a very, very long time. And as far as I can tell, not even familiars are able to heal while you are stunned by the gauge. Let's go through the attacks that are on the screen right now. First, there are the meteors. A rather impressive name for a rather inconsequential attack. They do a low amount of damage and fill up the gauge by a very tiny amount. They also decrease your accuracy, so don't get hit while you're bursting, or when you want to do damage in general. Next up is the Sword Aura Wave. If you get hit by it once, it does a moderate amount of damage and fills up your gauge by a little bit. But it is a persistent effect that travels across the map, and as such you can stand in there for a prolonged time and get damaged and fill up your gauge for a prolonged amount of time. It also stuns you with every hit, making it an annoyance if you ever find yourself inside it. Then there are the Holy Pillars. They do a big amount of damage and fill up your gauge by a large amount. As far as I know, these pillars appear completely randomly anywhere on the map. As such, you cannot predict them, you can only react to them when they appear. Which is the crux of the whole fight. You have to react to what is on screen, because a lot of the more dangerous attacks could appear anywhere on the map. Maybe not any time, because individual attacks have individual cooldowns, but anywhere. Which is how we sometimes find ourselves in situations such as this one. The right side of the screen is obviously not safe because there are multiple holy pillars covering the ground ready to erupt. But getting to the left side also has inherent risks, such as crossing a sword aura into a waiting Seren, which I cannot see because of all the effects, even though I have everything as totally transparent as can be. Technically, there is a third option of using an iframe, which I have 2 of because I'm a liberated shade, but both of them have a rather long 2-minute cooldown, and I want to save them for actually dangerous situations. Let's see which option I choose. And here is my biggest problem. I didn't react at all. To be fair to myself, it's not like I never react, it's that sometimes I only have bad choices to choose from and I manage to choose the worst of them. And other times I just make really dumb mistakes. So what are some of the most prevalent mistakes I see myself doing in phase 1? Surprisingly, the larger than indicated hitboxes didn't get me as often as I thought. Instead, my problem is ducking. Example. You duck to dodge a weapon aura, you get hit by a pillar and the weapon aura, you dodge a pillar only to drop into the weapon aura again, and in the end you filled up your gauge by half, all because you had to duck for about 4 seconds. Instead, I should dodge the sword aura wave by gaining some distance and jumping over it. The second problem I have is how to gauge out safely. Example, here I lose my door. To be honest, I don't know what I could have done better here. I gained some distance, I made sure I was full life, I gauged out with a single attack I believe, and then the sword aura came for me at a really bad time. If someone has a better strategy or maybe even a foolproof plan of how to gauge out safely in phase 1, I'd be delighted to read it in the comments. There, again, I duck. I shouldn't be ducking the sword aura. It's a 4-second self-stun. Why am I doing that? And now I'm even pre-ducking the sword aura, locking myself in place even longer. Anyway, there are probably a lot more mistakes I am making in phase 1 that people can comment on. But let's just get to phase 2 right now. It's been long enough. Which in itself is also another problem I'm going to talk about later. Phase 2, you want to start by ducking whatever is coming your way, waiting for Seren to rush towards your area, and then doing a full burst. Sadly, my partner gauged out, which means he's now stunned for a while, and we have to delay our burst. Anyway, Phase 2 is a cycle consisting of 4 parts. It starts with noon, then sunset, then midnight, then dawn. The midnight phase is the shortest, and every time someone gauges out, it gets shorter. When it is gone, the fight is over and you have lost, so don't gauge out too often. Also, in Phase 1, the gauge slowly depleted itself. In Phase 2, it only depletes during the midnight part, and then it does really quickly. On every other part of the cycle, it does not deplete at all. In the current part of the cycle, noon, there are 2 types of attacks. The ones you have to duck, and the ones you have to dodge by moving. Pretty much every attack where you see Seren swinging her sword, meaning the rush, the impale and the laser, you have to duck. Especially the laser, because it fills up your gauge almost completely by itself and deals a ton of damage as well. On the other hand, the 2 diagonal laser attacks, the ones that either originate from Seren herself or from the edge of your screen, as well as the little Mitra bombs that explode after a certain amount of time, have to be dodged by movement. This part of Phase 2 is mostly about finding your own rhythm. As an example, I as a Shade can attack 2 times with a Spirit Claw, then I have to duck one of Seren's attacks, and then repeat. Remember, the lasers from off-screen as well as the Mitra bombs aren't actions taken by Seren, so you have to dodge them in between that as well. Next up is the transition between one phase of the day to the next. Anytime that happens, you will see big lasers appearing all over your screen. One of those lasers will not quite reach the ground, and everyone will have to stand inside that laser. If one person does not stand inside the laser, then everyone dies who isn't currently iframed. I am pretty sure that the locations of players are client-sided. So if you are a bit late with getting inside the safe zone on someone else's client, you might not be inside the safe zone at the correct time. Sunset, or as some people call it dusk, is essentially noon on steroids. Everything deals much more damage than in noon and fills up your gauge much more quickly as well. There are also many more attacks coming down from the sky much more quickly. Then there are also these flaming pillars that last way too long, and usually you get 2 of them on either side of the map, and while Seren still has her rush attack, which also deals more damage, her normal attack, her impale, is now a 3-part combo. As a Shade, I should be able to attack twice in between every one of those combo attacks, but as you can see, I am still very scared in these early runs. Do you guys remember me postponing talking about one of the problems? Here's the problem. We are way too passive in this fight. We should be attacking way more. You can currently see us being at around 35% in the middle of sunset, but I can promise you, if we had done enough damage, we would be out at the latest in midnight, if not even before. So I don't really have to talk about the last 2 phases, but to make it short, midnight is your burst phase. You can only do a certain percentage of damage before the phase is automatically over, but that is the phase you usually want to burst in, because Seren is totally passive. Dawn is probably the most hated phase, because every time you get hit, Seren gains a shield, and there are a lot of things that are going to hit you in that phase. And at the end of that phase, whatever shield remains on Seren, she heals by that much. Okay, now I have explained to you most of what I know about Seren. Let's go to the fail compilation. I see myself creating distance, I want to gauge out, safely, and door's gone. Ducking is almost never a good idea in phase 1. Who knows what the world looks like in like 4 seconds. Using your 1-minute mini burst when you don't even want to spend a minute in this phase any longer is at least questionable. Combine that with ducking another sword aura. And the outcome was written in stone. And now I don't even have burst. Either way, you don't have to duck that, the horizontal laser won't even hit you. That was a close one. 1 dodge, 2 dodge, 3 dodge, and death. Staying dead, wasting time doing no damage, might be our biggest problem in the early runs, because that would mean that we get to Dawn phase. Which we really don't want. Without that iframe, I would have been dead. After reviewing the footage, I have still no idea what happened here. My best guess is, my brain glitched and I thought to myself, this isn't the run I want to finish. I feel like this safe gauge out was more luck than skill. Especially because I follow it up by losing my door, because I duck again. Ducking in phase 1 is truly the bane of my existence. At this point I'm so mad that both of us lost a life and I just tell my partner that we go out and try again. Which, funnily enough, is followed directly by our first successful attempt, which I'm just going to let play out in full. Have fun. And just before hitting dawn phase, we finish. If anyone reached this point and has some comments about what I can do better, I'd be very grateful for that. Besides that, I hope you're going to have a nice day. Sadly, no Mitra dropped.